People are being shown false images of Christ. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Psyche's Thoughts. My name is not Psyche, it is Elizabeth. I left the mirror in the frame. I don't care. Ooh, you're not here for that. You're here because I've decided that every day I'm going to get on here and share a random thought with you guys. You're going to have to excuse the way I look. Uh, I am probably going to sound a little bit scratchy. I am currently fighting seasonal allergies. I think it's raining right now, so hopefully that means there's no pollen tomorrow. But I genuinely might need a nebulizer tonight. So yeah. Anyway, that's not what this is here for. Happy Resurrection Sunday or Easter Sunday. Yes. I said I was gonna talk about this week, so this is what we're going to do. Okay. So, as someone that has grown up in the church, um, or grown up Christian, right? Um, you notice like a lot of people that you probably went to like youth group or you went to like Sunday school with, when you get older and you are given like the pure choice to continue to attend church, you notice that a lot of them do not attend church anymore. And I'm not just saying, oh, you don't come to this church no more. Like, no, I'm talking about people that like completely just they want nothing to do with church. They kind of also want maybe nothing to do with God in a sense, right? The reason why you see them, I guess the concept of that is called being like falling away from the faith. I think one of the major reasons why that happens is because people get shown a false image of Christ. And you see me looking to the side if you're new, it's because my notes are right there. So yeah, sorry. Oh my goodness, I hope I'm not too faint. I talk about this actually. I wrote this personal essay, which was kind of a testimony, kind of not, sort of, not my full testimony, but just like something I wanted to talk about that Easter. It's called God as a Weapon. I will link it. And if you're watching this video and it's not linked, just say something and I'll link it then. But I'm going to read you a few excerpts from that essay that I wrote back in April of 2025. I couldn't understand it. How could a being be loved but also be used to justify hatred? How could the God of David also be the God of tyrants, oppressors, the ones who murder in his name? Is that what God loves? Is that what God represents? Some tyrants led crusades and enslaved, and others were tyrants in the home. Across all religions, it seems that the most sacred name is both liberator and ball and chain. God, one's belief in him with respect for his laws and teachings, is held across the heads of countless people, keeping them suspended in a space that they otherwise would be long gone from. God, this being in the sky, was one that I was not supposed to question or doubt. God felt like a force imposed on me, being impartial to me in my personal suffering because I wasn't the way that I was supposed to be. When I looked around, I felt like I couldn't have been the only one who felt this way, who felt wrapped in the wrath of his indifference. But it seemed that everyone else was too afraid to admit it. I wouldn't say that this led me to hate God per se, but I decided that maintaining my distance was important. You do your thing and I will do mine. I was all too familiar with God, the one used to justify all offenses against me, while simultaneously condemning me for all that I've done to everyone else. I've read about the God of Crusades and the one that called for witches and devil children to be burned alive, the God that gladly accepted those who committed unforgivable acts and forced forgiveness on those who have been harmed by them. Yeah, so I guess those are sentiments that I had growing up. Yeah, I would say like growing up about God. Um, and I would say these are sentiments that many people that have fallen away have towards God. But I talk about this in the essay. This image or these sentiments that I have about God, I came to realize are not who God actually is. So now we get into the false Christ. What is the false Christ that people are being shown? It is the false Christ of control. What is what do I mean when I say false Christ of control? I mean the sentiment or the ideology that um leads to the thoughts like God only loves you if you perform correctly. The thought that if you are questioning anything, that is some form of rebellion against your creator and abomination. It is the thought or the sentiment that one cannot challenge or question authority because the authority is God, or thereby in placed by God, so it cannot be questioned if God placed it there. And any form of suffering is proof of the punishment that you deserve, right? So why is this false Christ of control so prevalent in communities and in people's lives? I think that fear-based religion creates not sorry, it doesn't create transformation, it creates dependence, right? You become dependent on this system to survive, basically, to thrive. You always feel like you have to be in good standing with this sort of system. Yes, I think that, and people when they are given the choice, or if they are given the choice in some cases, they don't necessarily end up leaving God. They just leave the version of Christ, this controlled based version of Christ that they have been shown. And control based systems benefit from this distorted version or this false image of Christ, right? Many institutions, structures, people are using the false images of Christ to their benefit. You see this in the home. One major example we can have of in the home, like I said, tyrants, people, particularly men that are tyrants. They use the Bible to sort of subjugate their family into submission. So it is not that God is at the center, but rather the man is at the center, because the man becomes the God, the God. The man becomes the God because he is the conduit or the direct line to God. So whatever the man say must be the directive from God. We see this in the church. I am never gonna shy away or shirk away from an opportunity to throw the prosperity gospel under the bus. Prosperity gospel and other fear-based doctrine in the church have allowed for certain churches and certain leadership in certain churches to capitalize off of these control-based systems, because the prosperity gospel teaches that you must give to God if you want to receive any sort of blessing. That's control. You're controlling somebody's finances. In other ways, there are churches that are under the name of God, or I guess, quote unquote, proclaim the name of Christ, but what they're really proclaiming is control, and they display cultish behavior. It's not funny. That really was a cough. They display cultish behavior. And then we see it in your government, or the government, any government, for across many countries and across many religions. Religious reasoning has been used to justify war, to rally people around the idea of going to war with another state that may have an opposing view. Um, I, I think that it's very possible to be Christian your whole life and never know who God actually is, right? And if your doctrine is a doctrine of control, it's either you fit in or you're forced out in any of these structures, whether it be you're forced out of the church, you're forced out of your home, you are forced out of, like, being accepted by the general population of, like, your state or what, your nation or whatever. Sometimes all three, because of this doctrine, this false Christ of control. And it's very easy. I can see how it's very easy to look at God and be like, you're the reason for this, because people are telling you that God is the reason for this. But they're telling you the reason why the Christ of control is so insidious or so ingenious, right? It's not, it's because the people that are using these, like, are taking an advantage of you, right? They're not saying, oh, it's not me. I didn't come up with this system. God came up with this system. So if you have a problem with it, you have a problem with the higher power, not me. So they get to shirk the responsibility while reaping all the benefits of having or being on the top of the food chain, the control food chain. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. It's very scary to see people use God for their own agenda. Like, I think it's the most terrifying thing to me, because to me, I think about all the people that, like, are living under this false crisis of control, or living under many different false crises, or like state of delusions, right? That think that they're really like believing in all that God is, or right, they think that this is all there is to God, and they're okay with that. And I'm just like, this is like, it's terrifying to me. It's terrifying to me, because it's terrifying to me, and it's sad, because just imagine like living your whole life thinking that way about God, when that's not who God is. It's not who Jesus Christ is, right? God did not God does not exist, or did not come, or it was never God's intention to control you. Like, and Jesus came to set us free. I think from the very beginning, like, and obviously this part is for people who, I guess, would still believe in the Bible. I mean, I don't know. My page is not, I mean, I feel like these conversations are not for people that don't believe in a God in general, but whatever. From the very beginning, like when we talk about Adam and Eve, like they were given, ooh, my eyes are itching. I'm so sorry. I'm going to start glitching in a second, but they were given free will from the beginning, right? God gave them the option to sin, like that. You know what I mean? They had the option to choose what they were going to do. We see it in Jesus. Jesus constantly challenged religious authority. He ate with people that were considered unclean. He never came on here and like forced obedience. People willingly choose to fight him. People willingly chose to follow. Ooh, people willingly chose to follow him, right? He rebuked. God directly rebuked control-based religion, and we see this in Matthew 23. I think all of Matthew 23, but specifically like the seven woes to the teachers of the law. Oh my goodness. It's a direct refutation of control-based religion. And so to think that the very Bible that people are using to beat and subjugate people, and trap them within their own minds and hearts, right? And contaminate, poison the way that they view God, that very same Bible is telling you, don't do that. So, what is the real Christ? Let's end this on a positive note. The real Christ loves justice, and he hates those who take advantage of others, especially those who take advantage of others while using his name. The real Christ focused on what was inside of one's heart. He called people to a higher standard of living beyond religious grandstanding or religious posturing, right? It was not about appearing holy, but truly being holy. The real Christ healed people, loved people, right? No matter who they were and or what they looked like. And it's just, again, it's really sad to me that people think of Jesus and they think of doctrine or they think of like a dogma, that's they think of it something that seems like super rigid and super, I guess for lack of a better term, like conservative. But everything that Jesus, guys, my throat is closing. Everything that Jesus commanded of you are things that are meant to set you free. You know what I mean? And freedom doesn't necessarily mean that you're like free to do whatever you want, or that there's no correction. It just means that you're not being controlled by fear. You're not being controlled. You're not being controlled. Like you are not under like direct moral duress or obligation to follow these things. It's simply your choice. Ooh, sorry. I said I was gonna try to stop doing that. Yeah. So I'm pretty much done. I guess if your version of Christ, or the image of Christ that you're being shown, or you have been shown anytime in the past or present, is making you feel trapped, it's making you feel fearful and silenced, you might not be following Christ. You might be following control. And you don't have to. You really don't. You really don't have to do that. I guess I don't know. I'm not a preacher. I'm not. So like I don't know how to end this. This is not a message. This is just like a thought that I have, an opinion. Really, let me know what you think. Have you ever followed a false Christ? Whether it not like, because I think there's like many false Christ, in the sense of like many fake images or false images of God that people genuinely believe in, but that's not who he is or not anything like he said he would be. But anyway, yeah, what do you think? Um, Happy Easter. What'd you do for Easter? My throat hurts. Guys, if you want to see more of me on this channel, you can see me. Oh, wow. I came all the way out. I might swerve and hit that corner. Whoa. That's the corner. I can't talk today. I'm going to take my allergy medicine. What else? If you're watching this at night, have a good night. All the places you can follow me and all that jazz, they're in the description. Go to visit my blog, read God as a Weapon if you feel like it. If you don't, let's chill. Do whatever you want. It's your world. Again, happy Easter and bye bye. I will see you tomorrow.